Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm George Graves Jr. Welcome to Wednesday evening with the Peoria Municipal Band. Glad you could join us this evening. Well, as you may know, Flag Day is approaching, so a lot of our songs will pertain to Old Glory, the flag. I'm sure we'll have some selections that you will enjoy. Mr. Carl Anderson comes to the front and will be playing a trombone solo. Glad to hear from him. Miss Kathleen Speiden is our vocalist for this week, so please, if you would, welcome Kathleen Speiden and Dr. David Broman.
Good evening. Please rise if you are able and join me in the singing of our national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets ring clear, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, sing us that star-spangled banner yet wave, o'er the land of the brave, and the home of the brave.
Well, good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight, one day in advance of Flag Day. First, of course, is our public service announcement, safety announcement, whatever you want to term it. And those of you out by the railroad tracks, just before some of you got here, a train did go through. And so if you hear this sound, we will ask you to stand up and move back by the cars. You can leave your chair out there and risk it, but we want you to move back, okay? So just in case you hear that sound, otherwise the train will just sit there for a long time and you'll continue to hear this sound. Questions? We've never taken questions before, but I thought that would be a new thing to do tonight. Nope. Flag Day is tomorrow. Flag Day is believed to have been started way back in 1885. And there was a school teacher up in Fredonia, Wisconsin. Anybody been there? Fredonia, Wisconsin, decided that he would somehow observe the flag's birthday. And then after that, a kindergarten teacher in New York City, a couple years later, decided maybe I should do that as well. And then by 1891, the Betsy Ross House in Philadelphia had a Flag Day celebration as well. And it just kind of spread. It spread into Pennsylvania in 1893, the late 1800s, but you still didn't have Flag Day like what we have today. And finally, 1894, it just kept spreading the whole time. And finally, in 1916, there was a proclamation by Woodrow Wilson, but it still wasn't officially Flag Day. No. You had to go all the way to 1949. President Truman. How many of those people remember? Now, Bill was talking to me about the first Flag Day, 1885, right? Bill Boer, he's played the municipal band for quite some time, and he was telling me how it got started. So that's where I got the history from. But President Truman signed an act of Congress designating June 14th of each year as National Flag Day. And so we're just going to celebrate some of that today, one day in advance. We're going to start with the music of George M. Cohan. And this is a great arrangement that John Kakovas did, and it has some of those songs from Broadway. But the other thing we know about Cohan is what a great American he was and how patriotic he was. So you're going to hear Mary's a Grand Old Name, Give My Regards to Broadway, 45 Minutes from Broadway, Yankee Doodle Dandy, and finally to our theme, You're a Grand Old Flag. This is the Star-Spangled Spectacular music of George M. Cohan. Thank you so much. Well, it takes a lot of people to make this band go, and our assistant conductor is going to conduct the next number. So please give Laurel, Fils, and Etzel a great welcome, please. Here we go, Laurel.
Claude T. Smith's Shenandoah, a Sea Fantasy, is a stirring rhapsody of the American folk ballad Shenandoah, or Across the Wide Missouri, that is rich in instrumental colors and effects. Shenandoah is a traditional American folk song of uncertain origin, dating at least to the early 19th century. The origin of the song is unclear, and there are many sets of lyrics. Some lyrics may tell of the story of a roving trader in love with the daughter of an Indian chief. In this interpretation, the rover tells the chief of his intent to take the girl with him far to the west, across the Missouri River. Other interpretations tell of a pioneer's nostalgia for the Shenandoah River Valley in Virginia, or of a Confederate soldier in the American Civil War, dreaming of his home county in Virginia. The song is also associated with escaped slaves. They were said to sing the song in gratitude because the river allowed their scent to be lost. Here is Claude T. Smith's Shenandoah, a Sea Fantasy.
Thanks, Laurel. Wanted to mention we have some VIPs in the audience. Tonight we have some folks from the Salvation Army Conservatory, Music Conservatory, and they're here with some of their staff members, including one who plays in the band, Mr. Fry. So you VIP students up here, can you guys stand up so we can all applaud for you? Give them a round of applause, would you please? Young musicians, maybe someday playing in this group up here. Okay, that's good. You can sit down. Good job. So our vocal soloist, who you briefly met at the beginning of the concert, is a graduate of Bradley University, where she earned a degree in vocal performance when she was up there. And she was named our Presser Scholar at Bradley. That's the most prestigious degree that music faculty can award upon a student her senior year. And she also won the Concerto Aria competition that we have 2 times. So she did that when she was a sophomore and also her senior year. She lives in Canton with her husband, Andrew. Andrew plays in the band. He's one of our trumpet players. Wave, Andrew. Good job. And lives in Canton with Andrew, and then their 3 wonderful children who are sitting up here in the front row. They got front row seats tonight. And she's the director, Katie's the director of music at Sacred Heart and St. Joseph's churches in downtown Peoria. She also has a very active private voice and piano student as well. We're happy to have her sing with the band all this week. Please welcome Katie Speiden.
Good evening, and what a beautiful evening it is to be down here on the Peoria riverfront. I'm so pleased to be singing again this year with the Peoria Municipal Band. Every year when I meet with the music librarian, I try and pick pieces that I haven't sung before. Well, last year I did just that. I picked 4 pieces that I'd never sung with the band, and that plan backfired on me. I got done singing at both my Wednesday and my Sunday performances, and I had people come up to me and say, "Why didn't you sing your song?" And so I'm going to sing that for you. And you're probably wondering what song that is. Well, that is Ah, Sweet Mystery of Life from Victor Herbert's operetta, The Naughty Marietta. Younger audiences may recognize this piece from the musical Thoroughly Modern Millie, as it makes an appearance in that. And if you're a Mel Brooks fan, you may recognize it from his film, Young Frankenstein. So back by popular demand, here is Ah, Sweet Mystery of Life. Mystery of life, at last I found thee. I know at last the secret of it all. All the longing As I mentioned, I like to challenge myself and do new pieces. So the next 3 songs that I'm going to be doing, I have never done with the band. This next song, even though I've never sung it, I'm sure many of you will recognize it. And I'm speaking of the Gershwin classic, "Swonderful." This was originally written for the musical Funny Face, but since it has become a standard in the jazz world, it's been recorded by the greats such as Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra, Bing Crosby, and Judy Garland, just to name a few. Here is "Swonderful." Wonderful, marvelous, you should care for me. Soulful, nice, paradise, it's what I love to see. You made my life so glamorous. You can't blame me for feeling amorous. Oh, it's wonderful, it's marvelous that you should care for me. You made my life so glamorous. You can't blame me for feeling amorous. Oh, it's wonderful, it's marvelous that you should care for, that you should care for, that you should care for me.
Well, since she brought it up, how many people like the old song? How many people like the new song? And you could have liked both, right? Give Katie another round of applause, would you please? Katie Speiden. She'll be back. Well, this next work that we're going to play for you is written by Cleveland-born Claire Grunman. And Grunman passed away in 1996, but he got his bachelor's degree way back in 1934 from The Ohio State University. Taught instrumental music in both Ohio and Kentucky. And we remember him today mostly because of all the compositions that he did for band. Studied under a very famous and successful composer, Paul Hindemith. And he was credited, he always credited Mr. Hindemith for all the compositional techniques that he taught. During World War II, Grunman served in the United States Coast Guard and took a special interest at that point in time kind of in school bands. And from there, he had 70 published compositions that came out pretty quickly. His arrangements were of a lot of the great American composers, Leonard Bernstein, Aaron Copland, people like that. He wrote this next composition we're going to play for you entitled A Colonial Legend back in 1975, and he wrote it for the United States Navy Band in Washington, D.C. There's 4 tunes that comprise this medley: Chester, the Boston Tea Party, Yankee Doodle, and then America. Now, the America that you're going to hear is a setting by William Billings, not the America maybe that you would sing if I said, hey, sing America for me. And William Billings also is credited with this Chester version. Both were written by him. And the significance about Billings is he's really the first American composer, one of the earliest. He was a tanner by trade, had very little education, but loved music, was very well known for writing psalms and made a lot of money that way. But in terms of great songs that are still around, folk songs, you would recognize many that he wrote, including these in this medley. A Colonial Legend by Claire Grunman. Well, you can already see the next piece is a big piece. It's large. This is a piece that's called Slide Ride, and it's going to feature it's going to feature our principal trombonist in the band. I'll tell you about him in a minute. But it's written by a gentleman named Greg Danner, and the other day we played a piece that was by Bob Jager, who taught composition for many years at Tennessee Tech University. And Greg Danner is now a professor of music at that same place. And Greg was born in St. Louis and went to Southeast Missouri State, got his master's at Eastman, went on and got a doctorate at Washington University, and is a very active performer, but he's a horn player. And he felt bad for the trombone, so he wrote this concerto. Actually, he wrote it for a good friend of his named Josh Hauser. Our soloist this evening is Carl Anderson. He directs the music business and the music and entertainment industry programs at Bradley. Got his bachelor's degree at Bradley in business finance, but all through his life he has been a musician. He spent 28 years in private industry in the music products area. He's written a book called The Music Products Industry, a textbook for music business students. How many have read that book? You need to run right out and get that. He's a commercial trombone player here in Central Illinois, specializing really in a lot of traditional jazz from the 20s and the 30s. He's played with groups like Lawrence Welk, All Stars, Harry James Orchestra, and even the Temptations. He's the founder of the Central Illinois Jazz Orchestra, if you've heard that fine group, and he also leads the Carl Anderson New Orleans Jazz Band, which they've produced and recorded 3 separate albums, and he sells them out of the trunk of his car. See him after the concert. He's in the horn line for the popular rock funk group JC and the Redemption, which performs regularly around the Peoria area. He's in the Prairie Wind Ensemble, and he's also the conductor of the St. Jude Catholic Parish Wind Ensemble. When he's not playing music, what's he do? Well, he hides underwater. He's an avid scuba diver, certified dive master as well. So please welcome Carl Anderson and enjoy this great solo called Slide Ride by Greg Danner. Here comes Carl. Just glad we don't pay him by how many notes he plays. Carl Anderson, give him another round of applause back there, would you please? Well, this next work is by John Philip Sousa. That seems appropriate as you approach Flag Day. And actually, it's called Saber and Spurs. That's what it's called today. But it was really meant to be March of the American Cavalry. And it was dedicated to the officers and the men of the 311th Cavalry. And that was commanded at that time by Colonel George W.K. Kirkpatrick. And it's one of Sousa's World War I efforts, which remain popular even today. He wrote many tunes to try and inspire the population during a very difficult time. And it's kind of amusing what it says if you listen to Sousa received a scroll of appreciation for writing this march. And this is what it said: Sousa, honorary life member of the officers' mess of the 311th Cavalry. But of course, in Army terminology of that day, that was the biggest award that could be given. So you can just leave the mess out of your mind there and enjoy John Philip Sousa's Saber and Spurs March. Thank you so much, and we do appreciate you being here. We're going to take a short break, but before you move too far, hopefully you signed up for the gift certificate, which once again this week is coming from Kelleher's, but I know that our Peoria Municipal Band Commissioners are going to come out and draw a lucky winner, okay? So don't go too far.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to draw a winner for, as Dave said, a gift certificate from Kelleher's tonight. Thanks to Kelleher's and Pat Sullivan for making this available to us. We give one away, a gift certificate from a local area restaurant every concert. So always stop at the desk and sign, or the table, and sign up, either here or in the Glen Oak Park Amphitheater. All right, and Mr. Katie Speiden just pulled the name out. He can't, we got him to do it. I knew you'd be busy. 3 kids, she's busy. Any case, we have a name, and that name is Jerry.
Like Purdue.
Jerry Purdue.
P-E-R-D-U.
Oh, I guess it's right. Jerry Purdue right there. Jerry, come on up. Get your gift certificate. Everyone else, thank you very much for coming tonight. Thanks out there along the railroad tracks. Remember, if a train comes, you got to move back to the cars. And please remember the Flag Day ceremony tomorrow, 5 o'clock at Constitution Gardens, the other end along Water Street, way down there on Morton off Adams Street. Welcome, everybody. Thanks to have you here tonight.
Well, that march is not as well known. It's kind of an old war horse march, but it's by Charles Dublé, and it's called Old Glory Triumphant. Next on our program is a piece called Prairie Dances, and this was actually written for an all-district band down in Wichita Falls, Texas. It was done by David Holsinger, who really got his start as a church musician, and he had a wind ensemble at his church, like many of the larger churches do, and they were always looking for music, and so he started doing arrangements of hymn songs. And from there, he became very well known around the country and around the world for those settings of these hymn songs. And then he decided, hey, I can branch out and do some different things. So he became a full-time composer for a period of time. He's also a college band director now and does a number of guest conducting services around the world every single year. So this is David Holsinger's Prairie Dances. We want to remind you about our schedule, and believe it or not, we ran out of flyers on Sunday night. And so we'll have more this coming Sunday night, and those are free. You can get those at the table when you sign up for the gift certificate. And if you're really, one of the things we say is take several and pass them out to friends, enemies, neighbors, everybody, and let people know that our season has begun. Many of you already know that on Wednesday nights we're down here, and on Sunday evenings we're at Glen Oak Park. And so you're invited to all those. People sometimes say, you know, Dave, Wednesday and Sunday, same concerts, right? Nope, they're a little bit different. There are some repeats, but there's also some new music, and of course we're going to celebrate Father's Day here shortly on Sunday night. So if you are just so anxious and you want to know the whole season, you can go to our website, which is all one word, www.Peoria Municipal Band. See how original that is? No spaces in between, .com. And you can find the whole schedule for the summer. It's posted there. But we'll bring more flyers on Sunday night, and we will require you to take them with you. Okay? And we'll have them Wednesday as well. It's always a pleasure to work with our vocal soloist, and Katie Speiden's terrific. She's great to work with. Has terrific talent, and we're just glad to have her sing with the band again this year. Please welcome back to the microphone, Katie Speiden.
Well, I'm back, and for my first selection in the second half, I'd like to sing Put on a Happy Face, which comes from the musical Bye Bye Birdie. Now, when I think of this title, I think of Dick Van Dyke as he sang this song in the film adaptation of this musical. I will not be dancing around like Dick Van Dyke, but hopefully you will still enjoy my rendition of Put on a Happy Face. Gray skies are gonna clear up, put on a happy face. Take off the clouds and cheer up, put on a happy face. Take off that gloomy mask of tragedy, it's not your style. You look so good that you'll be glad you decided to smile. Pick out a pleasant outlook, stick out that noble chin. Wipe off that full of doubt look, slap on a happy grin, and spread sunshine all over the place. Just put on a happy face. A pleasant outlook, stick out that noble chin. Wipe off that full of doubt look, slap on a happy grin, and spread sunshine all over the place. Just put on a happy face. Before I sing my last selection, I'd like to thank Dr. Vroman and the Peoria Municipal Band for having me sing again this year. It has truly been a pleasure to sing for all of you on this beautiful evening. My last song comes from the ever-popular movie musical turned stage musical, The Sound of Music. Sound of Music actually celebrated its 53rd anniversary this year. And in researching about this, I discovered that it was the third highest grossing film of all time. It was beat out by Star Wars, which came in second place, and in first place was Gone with the Wind. So I'd like to leave you here this evening with the inspirational title from this classic, Climb Every Mountain. Search a dream that will need all the love you can give. Every day of your life, for as long as you live. Climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow, till you find
Thanks, Katie. And she'll be with us on Sunday night, so you can tell folks and invite them to come to that concert. Cost is exactly the same as this evening. It's free. Well, we're going to continue kind of in the musical vein. This next musical is called Can Can. How many people remember the music of Cole Porter, Can Can? This is back from the 50s. It's an interesting story because if you think about Parisian kick lines and that sort of thing, some of the blue-nose Parisians were not so happy with that happening, and so there was actually some charges that were filed about that. It was way too risque. And then the lady that was in charge of all the dancing, well, then she gets to know the judge very well, and they fall in love, and there's a whole story that goes with it. But maybe you remember that Frank Sinatra was in the film, but before that, you got to turn the page all the way back to when it was first produced and presented on Broadway in 1953. And then the motion picture came out later with Frank. But there's some great songs in here that I know you'll recognize, and I'll know you'll enjoy the music because Cole Porter wrote it, and he was a genius. This is Can Can. Well, it's been a busy week for some of us. There's a number of staff members that are helping me up at Bradley, and we have Central Illinois Summer Band Camp going on this week. So if you're missing a little bit of music and you're free on Friday night, you can come to Dingledine Music Center for a free concert and hear what some of our middle school students from the tri-state area can do. So we have 84 students up there every single day. So it's been a lot of fun, and I know there were a couple that were coming tonight, and number of people that play in the band as well. But don't forget now, Sunday night we'll be where? Glen Oak Park. And if you don't know where that is, Google is your friend, okay? It's not far from here, about 12 minutes maybe, and you're parked and on your way into the amphitheater. It's a beautiful setting. Our next march kind of goes back to that patriotic idea, and it's again by John Philip Sousa. This is The Directorate. Well, thank you so much. Just could not have better weather tonight, do you think? Humidity changed, and it's a beautiful evening. Several people we want to thank. We're going to start tonight with George Bean. George is right over here, and he's taking care of the television broadcast that you can see on the Peoria station on YouTube. You can find us. So thank you, George, for being here this evening. We appreciate that. And Todd Pelon back there running sound for us. Todd's the guy that makes us sound good, gets all the wrong notes eliminated. Good job, Todd. Way to go. And then we want to thank Katie Speiden for singing with the band this week. So Katie, thank you so much. She's up here in the front, holding the youngest. And then Mr. Carl Anderson, the soloist on our trombone. Stand up, Carl. Give him a big round of applause. And then there's a number of people that help out. First are all the staff down here at Kelleher's. They set up all the tables and chairs and close the street and do all that. Give them a round of applause. A lot of extra work for them, for us to be down here. In the band, of course, Laurel Fills and Etzel, who conducted tonight. She's our assistant conductor. Give her a round of applause. Kristen Sheets is our librarian. George Graves Jr. is our band manager. Liz Driscoll does publicity. And Carson Potts, he tweets. And Frank does social media. Give them a big round of applause, would you? So again, Sunday night, Glen Oak Park, 7 p.m., and hopefully, the weather will be exactly like this. It'll be great. Sunday night at 7, if you can join us. We close as we always do, giving you a few moments to reflect on what a great country it is in which we live. This is America the Beautiful.